How's it going, everyone? Video number 2 or 3, I guess, today, if you count the one I released at about 1:30 AM in the morning. But this one is regarding, as I said, ABK and a bit of other news about exclusivity and also about Sony basically doing what they do best in blocking games coming to Xbox. Now, as you can see here, next year is around the corner, says post up, and he's saying this because of what Activision Blizzard posted on their official X feed. It says, it's awesome to see anticipation building for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. As we continue to work toward regulatory approval of the Microsoft deal, and this, class action lawyers is always just going to be nagging on, we've been getting some questions whether our upcoming and recently launched games will be available via Game Pass. While we do not have plans to put Modern Warfare 3 or Diablo 4 into Game Pass this year, and the key term here is this year. Now, obviously, Modern Warfare 3 probably isn't going to make it this year because of legal contracts with Sony, unless Sony give that up. Which I don't see them doing anytime soon. Now, my guess is that Diablo 4 also has a contract on there, a clause that prevents it from going onto Game Pass for 1 year, or at least until the end of 2023. And if that's the case, that explains why those games aren't going to be on Game Pass. Because at the end of the day, once the deal closes potentially this week, Activision doesn't really have a say anymore. Microsoft officially owned them. They can't turn around and say, we're not going to put this on there. They don't have the right to say that anymore. They can't. So my only assumption here is that there are legal reasons behind these two games being pushed into next year, because they make it very clear with the wording this year. And let's face it, we're already in October. You've got November and December remaining, so the year is almost done anyway. So if we get these games going into the first quarter, we're more than happy, right? But it continues to read, once the deal closes, we expect to start working with Xbox to bring our titles to more players around the world. Now, these are going to be like the previous Call of Duties, the previous Diablos, the Transformer games, the Crash Bandicoot games, and so forth. All of that rich catalogue that Activision Blizzard has will start to appear on the Game Pass catalogue. These are the older games, but still, it's going to add an immense value to Game Pass in itself. And we anticipate that we would begin adding games into the Pass sometime in the course of next year. I actually think that they're going to be adding games this year. I actually think that come November, end of November, we're going to see a flood of Activision Blizzard games coming into Game Pass, because that's the time you really want to be doing this, because it's coming up to Christmas. And what better way to shift like a Xbox Series S with a year supply of Game Pass for like £400? Boom, done. Out the door, straight. You've got a catalog, you've got a year subscription, you've got all the first party games from Bethesda, from Activision Blizzard, from Microsoft, and then a wealth of other indie games and third party games. That's like an amazing gift right there. So as the Christmas rush is coming, it makes perfect sense to be pushing this late November, moving into December. So I think once the deal closes, we're definitely going to see this actually happening, and what Blizzard are saying here will probably only apply to the newer titles that were released, like Modern Warfare 3 and Diablo 4. So this isn't really the win that PlayStation fanboys are ponying around right now, laughing at Xbox fans and saying, hey, what happened? Your dreams are crushed and all this and all that. It really isn't the win that they're thinking it is. Because at the end of the day, those are coming, and they're coming to Game Pass, and it will be there. And you know what? The next Modern Warfare, it's going to be on PlayStation. And while they're paying $70-80 for it, us Xbox gamers get it on Game Pass. Who's laughing now? We're getting the wealth of the catalog games from Activision Blizzard. Who's laughing now? Some of those games will obviously be a bit more of a challenge to get working. It's going to be interesting because like some of them were only on PlayStation 1, right? So they were PS1 exclusives. So it'll be interesting to see how those games are going to come onto the catalog, like the original Crash Bandicoots. But we'll see, right? We shall see. Right, moving on to the next story, and it's this one over here. So do you remember how people say that Microsoft buying Bethesda is not the same as Sony making contracts with studios? Well, Final Fantasy 16 is supposed to be 6 months exclusive. However, unfortunately, no. Final Fantasy 16 will not come out on Xbox. At least not in the near future, according to a report by Games Radar. Final Fantasy 16 has a minimum 6-month exclusive contract with Sony, which means it will only be available on PS5 until December 31st, 2023. This is what we know, hence why the PC version of the game is already in development, because that's probably going to arrive in January. However, there is another reason why Xbox players might not be able to enjoy Final Fantasy 16 at all. Sony has signed deals with third-party developers to prevent them from working with Microsoft specifically. This means that Square Enix, the developer of Final Fantasy 16, is not allowed to release the game on any Xbox platform, be it the cloud, basically anything within the Xbox ecosystem. That doesn't include the PC, unless Sony changes its policy. Now, this has been a long-standing policy of the exclusivity agreement that Sony puts in place. This is, and I think this is a bit cheeky what Games Radar says. This is a very unfortunate situation for Xbox fans who love Final Fantasy series. I hope you can find some other games that interest you on your console. Well, when you're going to make deals like this, and when you're making contracts like this, to me, that's the same as just blocking the publisher from releasing anything for your platform. So they tried the same thing with Starfield, and Microsoft said enough's enough, we're just going to buy Bethesda. So considering they did that, and now they're buying ABK, is Sony really thinking things clearly? At this point, I just don't think they're thinking anything through clearly. I really think that they are really just messed up somewhere, because if you've poked the bear twice and lost, astronomically, you still want to be doing stuff like this? To me, it doesn't make sense, right? To me, this doesn't make sense. But if this is what they want to do, it's fine. It's fair game. Microsoft will just go buy Sega. They'll go buy whatever they need to buy, and then say, right, if this is how you want to play the game, and this is the dirty tactics you want to employ, we'll just do the same. Because we can outcost you. We can outbuy you. There's nothing you can do that can stop us from outpricing you. What Peter Hines said is perfectly true. They are well within their rights to be able to do that, and there is nothing Sony can do to prevent it. So knowing this, do you still want to go down that road and push your market weight and doing stuff like this? I don't know. To me, it makes no sense at all. And obviously this leads into my next point, where Colt Eastwood has, through an insider source, so take this with a grain of salt, obviously, there is no confirmation, but there is actual logic behind this. Fallout 3 Remaster and Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remaster are going to be Xbox exclusives. Now, this has triggered a lot of people to get very upset that Phil Spencer lied. He said legacy games and updates would be releasing on PlayStation 5, and that they wouldn't be left out and they wouldn't have games taken away from them. This is very true, but Fallout 3 and Oblivion are PS3 games, not PS4. They are not PS5 games. So in order to be able to get those games working on the PS5, because PS5 decided that they believed in generations and they are not going to go down the backwards compatibility route, they would have to basically port those games over to the PS5, and ain't no one going to do that. And as a Ghost says here, that would make sense. Neither of those games got a PS4 version, so it's not like with Fallout 4. They would need to do an entire PS5 port of the games, and that ain't happening. See, Fallout 4 is getting a remaster as well, is getting an upgrade. That will be coming to the PS5, because a PS4 version of the game exists, and you'll be able to use that through the PS4 version of the game. But with these being on the PS3, the PS5 simply can't play those games. There is no native way to play them, and there is no backwards compatibility. And they're not just going to do it on the premium. I just don't see that happening. So it looks like this, by way, exactly the way that they were mocking Xbox fans, where because of the Series S, PlayStation fans who didn't buy Baldur's Gate 3 got a timed exclusive for free without doing anything, and yet they still didn't buy it and still didn't support the game because, you know what? Has anyone heard a single PlayStation fan talk about Baldur's Gate 3? I mean, they're still talking about Starfield. Just saying. But that is where we're at, and it looks like that, based on logic, they are going to be Xbox exclusives. So this is actually pretty cool for those of you that are looking to play a modernized version of or a remastered version of Fallout 3 and Oblivion. You're in luck, and if you're on the Xbox platform, they are going to be console exclusive. Good stuff. See? Told you you'd be happy. Now this is the final thing I wanted to cover really quickly, and it's involving the remaster of The Last of Us Part 2. It's quite funny because now you've got PlayStation fans actually going at each other. Some of them are actually now turning around and saying for $70, the same game, they're expecting us to pay for it. Naughty Dog hasn't released a single game this generation. All they've done is remaster, remake, remaster. It's not good enough. And the one game that they were making, Factions, has been put on ice and pretty much indefinitely cancelled because they've let go of all the stuff. But they literally have nothing going on this year. Well, nothing coming out from them this generation at all. There was rumors and there has been a kind of leak that The Last of Us 3 is in development. So that's good news for those of you that like the game. But like Jim Ryan said, right? Jim Ryan made this very pertinent comment. He said that we tested The Last of Us game with the remake. We invested in that to see how it would return with the TV series. And they noticed that they were able to manipulate the community, their players, through the TV series to go and buy the game again. And that was his words. Manipulate. So Jim Ryan was basically playing mind games with his community, mocking them into trying to buy the same game again, and they did. They all did. That's the funny thing. And he went on to say that every episode that aired, there was a massive spike in The Last of Us sales, console sales, and it was all at the same time as the game, the TV series airing. I mean, from a business point of view, it's genius. If you're gonna milk your community, this is the best way to do it. And the community turned around in turn and said, please, Jim Ryan, milk us more. We need to be milked as much as you can milk us. Oh. And that's pretty much where they are right now. Now, a part of the community doesn't want to be milked by Jim Ryan because he's out the door, so they don't know who's going to be there to milk him now. Whereas the other side clearly want to be milked even more. Take it as you see it, folks. Take it as you see it. That's the video. I'll see you in the next one.